it was a tornado.
I have never seen anything like this in Virginia in my stay here.
The massive tornado that hit the Tri-Cities on August 6, 1993 is still one of the most devastating twisters to ever touch down in Virginia.
Among the hardest hit areas, as you know, Old Town Petersburg.
It destroyed buildings that had survived the Civil War.
The destruction it's unbelievable. It's hard to describe.
There were so many wounded, some had to be loaded into the back of city pickup trucks.
I remember standing in the back of the bed of a truck, yelling at the traffic to get out of our way so that we could get to the hospital.
And after it was over, it was feared hundreds of people could be dead.
Sorry.
But almost immediately, amazing survival stories began to emerge from the rubble.
You brought back some memories that I hadn't really thought about.
Frances Jimenez was a 22-year-old Virginia State University student working a summer job at the French Betsy restaurant in Old Town. She remembers it was raining that Friday afternoon. Then it just happened all at once.
1 minute I'm standing, and the next minute I'm under the building.
The F4 tornado hit without warning, causing the entire roof of the restaurant to collapse.
Literally, there was nothing above us.
13 people were inside at the time, many of them buried alive, including Frances. Almost immediately, police and first responders were on scene and rushed inside the restaurant, frantically digging through the debris, searching for signs of life.
You don't know where we are, and you know, they was brave enough to come within that building because anything could have happened. Like I said, most of it has collapsed, but you don't know if the storm is over.
Move me down there.
Lieutenant Emmanuel Chambliss and retired police captain Greg Seidel were among those first responders.
I was surprised at the damage that I saw.
It was full of, dust and debris.
While the tornado might have been gone, they say there were other concerns.
I still was going under the assumption that it was a gas leak. So I was worried about, sparks, moving metal with metal.
But despite the uncertainty, they scoured through the bricks and shattered glass, and within minutes they found Frances, her body partially shielded by a co-worker, Lorenzo Briggs. On top of him, a steel beam.
If it wasn't for him being where he was, covering me, I could have been right there directly in that beam.
In actuality, Seidel says that beam likely kept the full weight of the roof from crashing down and killing them. This is how he described it at the time.
Hand of God. It's the only thing could have, of all the places for them to be in this building and survive, that was the place.
I was standing in the street, my camera rolling, when the crews brought Frances out on a stretcher.
Watch the wires coming up.
At first, I thought she was dead because her body looked completely ashen, but I soon realized that she was covered in dust.
You're in the blur, you can't move. You don't know what happened.
Lorenzo was the next one brought out. You can see Chambliss carrying the front part of the stretcher and Seidel on the left yelling.
All right, which one, crew? Where you want to go?
Both Frances and Lorenzo ended up at Southside Regional Medical Center.
I crushed my left side, my pelvic bone. I was pretty much bedridden.
She spent weeks in the hospital recovering from her injuries and even allowed me into her room for an interview.
And I thank God Lorenzo was on my side because God helped him protect me.
Though 25 years has passed, Frances says she still thinks about the tornado every day.
If it starts raining really bad, I'm nervous. Just to think about what happened, my life could have been over right then and there.
She and her husband still live in Petersburg in a home they share with their daughter. Frances works at the city circuit court. She and I have probably seen and spoken to each other countless times over the past few years, but I never realized she was the young woman I first met all those years ago. And she has no recollection of me talking to her in her hospital room. She does remember another voice, one that was in her ear shortly after she was pulled from the rubble. A voice she says she'll never forget, even though she never saw a face.
Because my eyes were never open, because I was covered. And I couldn't open my eyes, but whoever was in the ambulance talked me through. And to keep me remain calm. but it was a blessing. That's all I can say.
The woman behind that voice may be the one you see here in the white shirt and green shorts. While police are carrying Frances to the ambulance, you can hear the lead officer give instructions to that woman.
Go left, keep talking to her. Keep talking to her.
She tells Frances that she'll be fine, and she later kneels beside her as the paramedics prepare to put the young waitress in the back of the ambulance. That's the last we see of her in our original video.
I'm just grateful to be breathing, to be walking.
Frances says she owes her life to many heroes that day, and she'll always remember how they put themselves in harm's way to get her to safety.
Because if it wasn't for them, you know, it might be a different story.
According to the archives of the Richmond Times-Dispatch, the woman talking to Frances may be Mildred Albright, a nurse who was eating lunch at the French Betsy when the tornado struck. As for Lorenzo Briggs, Frances says she's lost touch, but she hopes he sees this story and will get back in touch with her real soon. Working for you in Petersburg, Wayne Koval, CBS 6 News.